Hello, my Facebook family. It is so good to be on here today. My voice is a little strained, but I'm going to try to talk up loud. But today's show is our last episode in Stoptober. We have been focusing and highlighting things during this Halloween type month that everyone likes to celebrate, things that really could make people afraid, that is in their own backyard, is in their own homes. So I took the opportunity to recast October as a Stoptober time. We have been looking at domestic violence, sexual violence. Last week we talked about dating violence. I had some advocates come on, and tonight's show, what's really different is that I am the host and the guest. I'll be sharing with you our final topic, which is stop stalking. Stop stalking. So I need you to right now take your phone, as I'm doing now, and go ahead and share, and like this page and this show, because it's going to bless you. I believe it's going to bless you a lot. I thank you so much already for your support and even your prayers, because today's discussion is somewhat hard for me because I haven't really made it public, and it still is an ongoing threat. So there is some concern that I should even share it at all. There's concern that I should even share it at all, both because sometimes in sharing information, it could potentially rile the stalker up, or a person who's harassing me could, make that person, quote unquote, feeling a little bit more volatile and vulnerable, which would not necessarily be good for me. But I had to also balance it with the idea that any one person could ever have any kind of control over my life. That is just the only person who could have control over my life is Jesus Christ. So I've decided, I won't say come hell or high water, that I was going to share on the stalking issue. So I'm sharing right now to my page. I ask you guys to definitely come on, share on your Facebook, click thumbs up, share, and click the bell if you subscribe on YouTube channel. And that's Hope More, lowercase HOPE, uppercase MORE, because it only takes a little bit of hope to want for more. So I ask you guys to pray my strength to the Lord. I have an opportunity to share something that I've been dealing with for a long time. And just like in the other shows, we're asking that if you have any questions or concerns about domestic violence or stalking, please, please, please share in the box below. So thank you guys for coming on. And without further ado, most of these shows I've started off the top of the hour giving you definitions, but I'm gonna change it around a little bit. Because I am the guest and the host, I definitely wanted to share and change it around a little bit, because it's sort of hard to be my own interviewer, especially with my voice being tired. So I have asked, and I have permission, thank you, Lord, to share with you an interview that I gave just a little bit earlier, and it talks a lot about what happened to me. So let me. All right. Lord, is this because you want me to talk about it? Oh, stay on. Don't go nowhere. The enemy's mad, but that's okay. You know what? The enemy's mad. Let's see. I can switch out of this. Okay, I may have to just share because it's not pulling up. But I really, as you all could tell, I have been really, really congested. I don't have COVID. I checked yesterday. I'm doing fine, but it's just that my voice is being impacted by, I think, some postnasal drip. So here we go. I think I have it. Yes, 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 I do.
Oh, well, I got it.
Okay. So thank you guys for your patience, because this is not how I like to do things. But like I said, I'm both nervous and not feeling the best, but I really think people be blessed by my particular testimony of stalking. And we'll talk, and I hope you share any of your advice regarding things to do to keep yourself protected if you find yourself, because men and women find themselves dealing with this issue. So I'm about to share my screen now.
Ask you to share. I know you're listening and you're hearing. This might sound similar, it might not, but let's talk about your journey, and then we'll just all have a conversation.
Sure, I can tell you, Misha, I think you're so brave, and the fact that you have a 30-year-old daughter, I'm like, wow. When you said that, I was like, she didn't say 30 or 13. Okay, so
Four grandkids.
you know, when I was speaking to Cheryl about being on the show today, I have had my own situation going on that some people put inside of domestic violence, other people don't. And so I don't want in any way to take away from the pain of intimate partner violence or harassment and stalking. Um, but my story definitely varies in that I had a stalker, or I have a stalker, who I've never been in a relationship with, other than we both went to church together and I represented his wife. I'm an attorney. And this person and his wife and family, I became I became aware of them when there was some criminal issue that his wife was being accused of hurting him. And I represented her, and we got the case dismissed. I ended up going to another church. They also went to that new church. And unbeknownst to me, they were having their own, well, I should say unbeknownst, right? They had issues, but they ended up divorcing. Her and her children continued to attend church. He continued to attend church at the same place that I was attending. And I'm a minister, also was over the worship department in arts and production. So I would often lead praise and worship or preach. And what started off with, even jokingly by my pastor at the time and even some brothers in the church, was that someone had a crush on me, someone liked me, and it turned out to be this person, this husband, who's now, I guess, soon to be ex-husband of a prior client. When I say, I was like, okay, but I literally thought very little of it, both because I was never friends with these people. I wasn't interested in nobody's ex-husband, just the way I was even raised. I regardless, he could have been handsome with a lot of money, but by the fact that I represented his wife, particularly, or that he was divorcing, that was just nothing that ever gave me thought. What happened during my time after he got divorced, he started basically really delusionally thinking that everything I was doing at church on the stage, if I was singing or preaching, that I was actually sending him messages. And he would call and leave voicemails and say, like, I know we're going to be married, and you know, I know you wore that dress for me when you were singing I love you Jesus. I know you were singing to me when you wore that color pink, you know, that's my favorite color. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I've never had a conversation other than what was happening with his wife, with this person. And it, at first I was just like, okay, this guy does have some mental health issues that I was aware of. But as we know, a lot of people have mental health issues and they are functional. And I made my pastor aware of it, that he's leaving these messages. He would never say anything to my face, but he was leaving these messages, and they were getting more and more delusional, to the point that it made me feel scared, because he was saying stuff like, we're going to run away together, I'll wait for you. And it was just really just off the wall craziness. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't what's the word? It wasn't flattering. Like his calling and leaving messages. Now these are messages. Was not just like, oh, I love your voice, or I think you're pretty. It was like, we will be together. Don't worry, as if we had some real conversation or a relationship. And it got to the point that he started then becoming more menacing in his calls and what he would say. Like, I saw you, I followed you. I wasn't aware that he did, but the more messages he left, the more crazy it sounded. Literally, my pastor and the board of directors decided to trespass him from the church because his messages were going from flattery to delusional to like saying stuff, you better not be talking to nobody else and you know your mind. And it was just really, really getting crazy. And I felt bad. Really, I felt bad because with his divorce to his wife, I know him going to church there with his kids was probably one of the few things he was able to do with his children. But I was also appreciative because it was starting to get really weird.
Okay, so let me just ask you a question.
Sure.
When you represented them in the divorce, did the wife ever mention that he was doing that with her? Did she ever mention anything that gave you indication that he had an issue?
Well, I didn't represent their divorce. I represented her in a criminal case where
but I guess I should say that in the criminal case, did she ever give any credence to the fact that he was different, that he was weird and doing?
Oh yes, I mean,
he was doing it to her too. That's what I was trying to get at.
Well, I don't know what he was doing to her, but that he did have mental health issues, that he was on medicine, and that she was charged with a felony assault. And basically, we were able to get it dismissed by his own admission that he was acting crazy that night. So I knew that he had mental health issues. That was a part of our defense.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people have mental health issues. That doesn't mean you're violent or scary, right. But he's sort of, he's schizophrenic. So a lot of times people who are schizophrenic, they become very obsessed by something, or they want to, like, if they're reading the Bible, they're reading it every day, all day. Right. If they like a certain song, they're playing it all the time. So if he was trying to get his wife attention, he would just keep, bothering her in her face or whatever, whatever her response was. A part of our defense is that there's been, trouble in the home because when he's not taking his medicine, he's not. Okay. Yeah. So right. I don't know to what extent my pastor or the leaders knew, because at first the impression I got was, oh, it's nothing. He just has a crush on you. Just make sure you don't hug him after church and, spend time with him. And I was like, I don't hug him I don't hug him now. I don't spend time with him now. If I see him, he is not ever directly saying anything to me that would make me feel like he
had you know what I mean? Attraction or anything.
It was all voicemail. So I blocked him on I blocked him in my voicemail. And this was in 2015. And he would routinely leave messages because, you can go to your blocked messages folder. I blocked him on Facebook. And I thought, cool, everything's good. Like, that was just a little craziness happening. And also I was very, very sensitive to the fact that his children and his wife knew that I knew how bad it was. And I just couldn't imagine what his children would be going through. So I was particularly very mindful when I saw them to say hello, to smile. Like, in other words, like, I don't think of you any different, because I know they were embarrassed. I know his ex-wife was embarrassed. 2 years later, I no longer live in Atlanta or a part of that church. And I was going up for a basketball tournament that the church was having. And the week before I go up, I'm starting to get messages again. But now these messages are like, you're following me around town with my new girlfriend. Leave me alone. You had the opportunity to have me. If you don't leave me alone, I know something, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, it was like he was angry. And at the time I contacted the pastor of that church, like, do you know what's going on with this dude? Because he's all of a sudden in my inboxes again, calling. And I'm trying to think, how did I get it? I guess they were just messages being blocked still. And I was particularly concerned because I was going up to that church's event and they're like, he's still blocked. And I found out that this person was sending the pastor pictures of firearms.
Okay, so stop.
What?
Just stop.
Yeah.
This is the part. This is the part that is so. The fact that there is no protection from the people that know, that has got to be, for me, the most frustrating piece in the world, especially in a house full of men. It is really, I don't know if it's lack of education. I don't know if it's almost like there's an overhaul of training that is needed, because that is so dangerous. That is so dangerous.
Very dangerous. Now, I have to say, so I feel like he comes up every 2 or 3 years. I have to say, in 2017, that pastor and myself sought, we wanted to get information. At that time, I'm actually practicing temporary restraining orders. That's what I do as a victim advocate, as a part of my law job. And the pastor, although he had pictures that were being sent to him with guns and saying things, even him saying stuff like, you better stop following me or I know something. I was told that it was not considered a threat in Georgia. And that because guns are legal, sending people pictures of guns does not mean that that's threatening.
Right.
So, so I literally, even when I went to the game, I saw his ex-wife and his girls there. And I took the opportunity not to tell her anything that was happening. Because again, I felt like she must have been super traumatized in their relationship. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, hey, have you heard from Antonio? Yes, his name is Antonio Powell. Have you heard from Antonio? What is he up to? She's like, I don't know. I think he has a girlfriend somewhere, blah, blah, blah. I did not tell her what I had been dealing with, but the pastor of that church knew. After my visit in Atlanta, I didn't hear from him anymore. The police said that what he did it did not rise to the level of a threat. And I'm laughing because I'm like, when I say I'm laughing, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I practice in Florida, but I'm also barred in Georgia. And they took my information. This year, so now we're talking about 6 years later. This year, before Easter, I in my inbox of Facebook am getting messages from an Antonio Powell. The Antonio is misspelled. And you would have just thought we talked the day before. And I was like, I should play some of his messages. He's like, you better watch for me because, when I see you, I'm going to hit you on sight. You messing with my kids. You had an affair with my wife. I'm going to kill you and bury you in the backyard. Don't think because you're in Perry, Florida, that I don't know how to get you. I have your picture. I know who you are. And it's like at least 14 messages. They're just audio messages where he is just going in.
And the police are saying what? Because that's a direct
right.
That's why I'm like, when Misha, I was like, girl, bless your heart. Now, again, can I preface that I practice this kind of law? And it took me talking to 7 law enforcement officers to even get a police report. I spoke to the officer in Cobb County who had the information from my prior complaint, and he passed the buck. Or should I say, he's like, well, talk to your local law enforcement and we'll coordinate something together. I have no idea where this man is. And I'm literally talking to police officer after police officer calling. Sometimes they would send out the same police officer. And I am telling them what is happening. And Florida laws are different a little bit than Georgia. And there was a total misinterpretation of the law regarding messages on social media versus audio messages. And I thought the police were not understanding. I'm like, he used social media to leave audio messages. So it was literally one of the police officers at the end who finally took my, well, not the one who took my report, but his head supervisor apologized to me, was like, basically this officer was being lazy. He didn't want to write a
absolutely
report.
Lazy. And let me tell you something.
He didn't want to write a report.
Let me tell you
And
something.
so they built on top of all each other that this is not criminal. This, if you need a civil injunction, but I'm like, I need an address. I need you guys to find him. This is terroristic threats. This is assault. These are all these things. And I'm like, looking them in the face, like, you're telling me as a practice lawyer that I don't know the law, and this is the field I work in. That's what I'm hired to do under a federal grant: domestic violence injunctions, dating violence injunctions, stalking. Like, literally, I had to get the state attorney's office involved. And Cheryl, talking to you definitely was helpful, because my last situation with him was in August. Like, he died out, and then August, because I have a show called Hope More on Facebook, and he's commenting on my Facebook during my Facebook show, "Oh, I still know where your mom and your siblings and where you live." And I'm just like, God help me. So these police officers were so quick to try to tell me what the law was. And I'm like, I know what the law is. And actually, one of them was a guy I went to high school with. He darn knows well that I'm a lawyer. And he is like so hell bent on, this is not a police matter. And I'm like, if I'm having to talk to 7 law enforcement officers to get 1 police report, no wonder my clients give up.
Because let me tell you something. Do you know the strength that it takes to even tell the story? Yes. That's the part. And if you have to tell that story 6 or 7 different times to the same person or different people, you run out of time. You run out of you're tired.
This is definitely tired. And I couldn't believe, and I've had situations where clients have so much. They're like, I got audio tape, got video, and sometimes, especially coming in for initial assessment, I don't need to have all that. So I'm just trying to get like some information so we can schedule it. But I will never again just tell someone I don't need to hear that, because when I'm trying to play the message so you hear what he's saying, right? You're telling me there's not a crime, but you won't even listen to the audio tape. Right. And so I'm like, oh my God, how frustrating that is. So the chief of police, who I knew personally because we were on a board together, he had been out because of the death of his mother. When he found out, he was profusely upset about it. And, whether it was CYA, which it also probably was, he was like, you're being really gracious, because I live in a small community. It'd have been nothing to get on Facebook and blast everybody. But I literally was like still trying to figure out what to do. I shared with Cheryl a number of things that was surprising as a person, especially who practices law, to now be in the seat of a victim, feeling like I'm sharing with certain people because I think they would not only understand my plight, but they know that I'm dramatic, but I'm not a liar. And so when I shared, say, with leaders at my old church, like one leader was basically like, oh, I'm not going to get involved as long as he's not messing with our church. I'm not going to get involved, and I don't think you should either. And then would tell me like, the police are so busy with this COVID thing and people are sicking out, then that's probably, gave all the excuse in the world that would make me think, if I didn't know better, that I'm overreacting. But then a person on the board of the church who no longer is a part of that church, and that church is no longer even existed. It merged with another church. So the original church that we were part of no longer existed. That board member, who is a multimillionaire, who literally was like, he's like, I'm going to check on you all day. He will call me. He was like, I'm on another business line. I'm going to call you after I'm done. I probably only have 5 minutes. And all day, his wife is a pharmacist. He's a multimillionaire businessman. He was like called, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. He put enough time in to sign me up. Like, we're in 2 different states, to sign me up for a self-defense and concealed weapon class. He's like, you need a gun. And, a lot of things that we talked about and a lot of things that we did, he did sleuthfully trying to figure out where this person was. I just appreciated that someone jumped on it. Like,
Right.
you have every right to be upset. You have every right. He's like, and so, or the same thing happened. I work in this field. Have to be careful what I say, but let's just say I shared this with people who I've had to do other work with to provide for other victims. And I just felt like no one took my situation seriously. Or maybe because I present myself pretty confidently most of the time, and I don't want to take away time that maybe some other people with more severe situations happening. I don't want to take time away from them. So maybe it's the way because I was told later, like, well, you seem like you had it all together.
Here's the thing. Exactly. And this is the part and pardon me for interrupting.
No.
The part that is, this is where like training is needed, right? Because everybody does not have to go in bruised and beaten,
right,
to have a story. Everybody doesn't have to go in bent over because they've been abused. Some people can tell the story with tact, and they're not emotional when they're giving you the facts, kind of thing. That does not mean that they weren't abused. And the whole thing is, even if you're not in law enforcement, even if you're the cousin of a person who's coming to tell you the story, the bottom line is they don't have to present a certain way. Just tell them that you believe them. Like, that's the first thing. Just, nobody's going to make this up. Nobody wants to tell that kind of story and make it up. And so then, it's like, can you just believe me?
It's not easy. Like, I laugh because I don't think that anyone particularly thought I was not telling the truth. But either they devalued that I was in danger, and or they saw that, okay, where does he live? I don't know.
Right.
The last time, oh, it's in a different state. Oh, you need to call Cobb County and reconcile. It's like, oh, I got to do work, and you would probably still won't find him, and there's nothing we could do about it, because really, you're not really hurt. He's just blowing off steam. I mean, if he lives in Atlanta, he's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a hard time coming to Perry, Florida. That's a Greyhound. That's, so, but what I'm telling you, the fight I still have, that's why I wouldn't return Cheryl's calls, because she gave me some very good directives and I didn't follow up, because I'm just like, but I imagine now, like with my clients, how I could be like, we need to do this, this, and this. And I go back to them and they haven't done but one of the things, because it's so overwhelming. And you are sick of, like, you're like, I'm in danger. Do I have to cry? Like you said, do I have to? But I can tell you, for several months, I was carrying a gun around. I do have my concealed weapons license. I ended up changing my entire house around. I have defensive weapons in every room in my house. Like, I love to go walking. I stopped walking because I was afraid of cars passing me. I live in a small town where people come to my house who I've never met in the world, because people talk. I come from a big family. It's very easy to find people. People knock on my door. I understand a colored attorney lives here. Like, literally. And so it took me a while to stop acting in fear, but I did get some police reports. I did get a temporary on him that lasted several months, but because he was not served, it couldn't be finalized. And Florida was more helpful in the court system than Georgia, because in Georgia, the Cobb County magistrate reviewing different issues, saying because I responded to the harassment that he did on social media, that at that point of response, I was inviting that person to continue to keep going. I was like, that's different. Never heard that. I've been practicing this kind of law for a while.
And who would know that? It would be just a defense to say, stop calling me. That's inviting the person. It is
I think the thing was, I did say, stop, leave me alone. I blocked you already. But then, because I want to be fully honest, then in my sort of strategizing with the person who knew him from my old church, a part of the strategy turned also to trying to, like, draw him out to figure out where he was, because he's so delusional that so I was just like, you say you know where I am, I know where you are. So for a
that
brief
was inciting
day,
him.
we were going back and forth. And so then I was able to go through and show where, okay, I'm not talking to you, leave me alone. And it continued several other times. But I was like, okay, that's an interesting point. But his threats though, that's still terroristic threats though, you know. But because of a number of things, I was just like given little to no relief. But I can tell you now, my house, I did not have an alarm system, I didn't have a gun, I didn't have all those things, and now I do. But I was very surprised at the people who did not take it as seriously as I thought they would.
Yes.
And that became for me like a reflection of a value that I was internalizing. Like, okay, Hope, he doesn't have a lot of money, so he probably can't get to you. Okay, the police are busy. But then it's the people I talk to who I'm not even friends with that deeply. Like one of the lawyers in the community, he was like, you need a gun? I have a gun. Come down here. And then when I went down here, it's like, why don't you just stay? He stays by the beach. Stay here with my wife and kids. I have never had even dinner with you since graduating high school. In fact,
some people just
I
get
thought
it.
of you as just this racist redneck. And that man was like, you can stay here as long as you want to because this is not funny.
Yeah, people
I'm like,
No,
he
it's not.
doesn't even know me.
there are some
He
people
doesn't
that
even know me
understand.
like that. He's giving me a gun, like he gave it to me. He had his wife show me how, it was a cute little chick, show me how to shoot it. And it's like, I open my home to you. See, we have that space over there if you want to come and stay here for the weekend. He took it so seriously. And I appreciated that he took it so seriously. And I'm sure, Misha, when like the people who take it so seriously, you just want to hug them. Even talking to Cheryl, she's like, you need to do this and this and this. And I'm just like,
it's a lot.
So
and this is why it's overwhelming. Because you deal with people who blow it off like, okay, well, girl, he probably can't find you. Then you talk to somebody else. Okay, we need a plan.
Right.
You need to get your clothes, you know.
Exactly.
And it really is, as much as we want to not believe it, it really is a matter of life or death. It really is. And in the moment that you encounter the person, not you, Hope, or not you, Misha, but whoever, in that moment, it's almost like when you have a gun in your hand, you have a 3-second window.
And you know what?
If you have not made a plan and you do not have a way to get out, it is a matter of life or death. It is a matter of life or death.
And you know all it takes is someone being a bad day, a bad moment. I'm like, this guy has mental health issues. Something must be going on in his world because I have no connection to anything in his world at all. Like literally, it comes out of left field. So I'm like, if he's in a manic state, hopefully his name is being put out there since finally I got a police report that if he did encounter someone else or hurt them, that they'll see that they're looking for him. Because I'm just like, yeah, most likely when he's more sober-minded, he's not going to do anything. But all it takes is one click. I mean, for 3 years.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm not 3 years, 6 years. Excuse me, 6 years.
Unfortunately, with a person that already has mental health issues, it could be something or nothing. Yeah. That's the reason why it's life or death. He doesn't need a trigger. He's the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be it's green. It could be something decided. You know what I mean? There's like, so that's the reason why every single incident, as much as, you know, and the police are inundated with calls and all that. I get all that. And that's the reason, to me, that's the reason why we as women, we as allies need to continue these conversations. Because I guarantee you, there's some people on this live right now that do not know the ways that the laws are working. They did not know that the police aren't responsive. They did not know what needs to happen. They did not know what it looks like, because it doesn't always look like a black eye. It doesn't always look like somebody broke your leg. It can look like a phone call and I'm rattled. And instead of you saying, you tripping, you doing all that, that's not what's going on. This person has called multiple times. I've only told you about one of those times.
Absolutely.
No, and let me tell you, someone, I think Sheila was talking about making a plan. Yes, you got to make a plan. in my opinion, for anyone trying to get out, I'm talking about my stalking situation. What was amazing is because I safety plan with clients all the time, and yet it was hard for me to go through my own mind to do a safety plan, and I was told that anyway. It was a person from a different county who doesn't work with my organization. When she found out, she called and she came to my house for 2 hours to go over safety planning with me.
And that's what we're going to do.
I just started crying. I'm like, why on earth did you spend this time? She's like, you fight for everybody else. We got to fight for you. And I just was like literally in a puddle of tears because, I mean, no shade to anyone else, but I work with a whole organization and not one person offered to do that for me.
Right. And that's
what we do a great job for other people. And I was just like, she had printouts, she had cost comparisons to different video. Like she was taking it as seriously as she does with any client. And I was just like, you know what? This week I felt at the bottom of the barrel of value and the top of the charts. Because again, it took me 8 officers to get a police report, and I've been a lawyer for over 20 years, and in 4 years I've been a victim advocate. It took me the 8th officer to write a police report. That's not even doing an investigation, to write it out and show that it's been reported.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do next month, and it just came to me, a plan. And for the show, we are going to devise a safety plan. So whether you're in a situation, even if you're not in a situation, you will have a plan of escape and a plan, because it could happen at any given moment and you're not prepared. You know what I mean? Like there's
No.
you just are not prepared. Even if you have something in your car, a couple of things in your car, or you have a gas card, you know what I'm saying? There's different things. We're going to devise a plan next month. That's what we're doing. Period. So
especially for people who have children and you have all these other moving objects.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not just you. And if I could just throw this out there, I don't know if you have this month mentioned. Wow. Netflix there's a lot going on in that, and I really am called The Maid. I don't know if you all could still hear it. It just came out.
I watched that.
Is that not? When I saw that, I just saw it this weekend.
Anybody who has, we're not advertising, but if you have a chance to watch
it's still going,
The Maid on Netflix, it is exactly what it looks like. It is exactly, there's a series.
Who's been a victim of domestic violence, in particular those who don't show their violence through bruising.
Right.
Wow.
And how, like, Misha, you're so brave. After 3 times you left, it takes the average woman 7 times.
Yep.
6 to 10 times to leave, and it's more dangerous during the time you leave the first time. You come back. But that movie, I was like, oh my God, I wish, and I'm sure they do, but I did not know that it was going to be that on point about domestic violence.
So,
the cycle.
No, listen, if you have no clue, you have to get it. You have to watch it. And you're right. It is so intriguing. And it is, if from my perspective, being a person that had to do that, it is so, it just shows the importance of how people need to play a part in terms of help, right? And it also shows what happens when they don't. It's so like you guys have to see that. I've got to pull out because we got somebody special on the line, but I definitely want to.
You guys, that was an interview I did earlier with Cheryl, and she has a wonderful podcast called Another Woman's Story, and she focuses a lot on domestic violence. And I was going to come on originally as just an attorney who does restraining orders and talk about my work in victim advocacy. But in talking to her, I shared that I too am a survivor of stalking, but it's not intimate partner stalking because I have no intimacy whatsoever with this person. But she was like, no, I want you to share it. It's under the same umbrella in some ways. So I got a chance to share for the first time publicly that myself, I'm still in the midst of a situation where a person continues to stalk me. You guys have been commenting, and I definitely want. Chandrika asked, "What movie?" I'm sorry, I cut out. There is a show, a mini series, if you would, on Netflix called The Maid. It's called The Maid, and it's actually one of their newer movies up, but it is so good. It, and the particular woman is trying to escape domestic violence situation, and I thought in looking at the whole series, it was very, very accurate as far as the number of victims I deal with who go, it shows how easy it is to go back. It shows how hard it is, especially if you're financially dependent on a partner and you don't have the most stable support in your exterior families. That movie was so good, and I think people could watch it and have a greater understanding. Um, I That was my situation, and maybe I should be grateful that I had to play the earlier interview because my voice is leaving me. But the situation, um, what not I won't say killed me because the devil's a liar. What hurt the most, as I shared with you guys, is how many that I told, or some of the people that I told that offered no support or suggested that I not take it seriously or had excuses for the police. And but also one of the biggest highlights was to find out that there are people in your community that you may not be close to. You may not go to church with them, you may go to church with them, but they're not someone you've hung out with. Oftentimes those are the people who will have your back in a way that you'll be surprised, like I was with that local attorney who I went to high school with. And I was sort of tongue in cheek there saying he was a redneck racist. I'm not saying that he was, but I'm just saying, like, you would, he has a number of clients that he would describe that way. And he came off so protective of me that it reminded me of how important I was to be protected. And when you're a single woman in particular, that that it felt so great to know that another man was feeling protective over me that wasn't my 76-year-old father. So a lot of my fears, I did not tell my parents at first because I didn't want them to be scared. And one of the reasons why this particular situation I felt really weird about sharing, even during today, was like, oh, well, what if this makes him act out more? And I was like, you know what? I don't care. If I stand up for myself here, maybe it'll give other people who are dealing with someone who's being stalked um, more courage to come forward, because it can be embarrassing. I imagine in this particular situation, I don't know this guy. Like, when I say I don't know him, I'm thankful that I've never had a social occasion with him ever in life. But I could imagine that there are situations where people know someone, or maybe someone you're in a relationship with. Maybe they took pictures of you naked. Maybe there's a sex tape. Maybe there's some type of fear that some secret's going to come out. And it's really daunting for you to share. I would encourage you to still share. And I'm going to do the same today. So if you need a role model, let me offer myself. And every show I've given definitions. So here I'm talking about stalking is to engage in willful, malicious, and repeated harassing conduct like following or cyber stalking to another person, causing substantial emotional distress, serving no legitimate purpose. That is, in a nutshell, how stalking is defined by law in the state of Florida. And when it comes to getting a restraining order or a civil injunction, you have to at least shown two instances to get that type of legal whereabout. And stalking is abuse, and abuse is about power and control. If you're being stalked, it's about that person wanting to exert power and control over you. That's why tonight I'm saying I don't care. I'm going to let it all hang out. One, practically because I know there's some people who may know him, maybe, and I need to find out where he is. As well as I don't want to be afraid anymore about this person who's intruded themselves in my life for the last 6 years. And was so brazen to even come on my show and put comments in the comment section. So if he's watching, yes, go ahead, give me your address and phone number. I would love to connect with you, stalker. So I wanted to answer some of these questions. We definitely got to raise our voices. Yes, Azari, thank you so much. This does make me angry because it's so unnecessary. But what makes me, probably I'm less upset with him and more upset with the system, because like I said in that piece, if I can, as a 21-year attorney, if it took me 7 officers before the 8th one wrote a report, then I hate how it must happen with people who are like already embarrassed and being ignored. It's just really crazy. I would even say that it was racism, but I can't even say that it is. The system just sucks. The system sucks. So I wanted to talk about, and I'll answer any questions that you have. My friend Zara asked me, did I have any stars? It's an inside joke, but like little karate type martial arts stars for protection. Oh, wow. One of our councilmen, she's a survivor. Thank you, Councilwoman Hampton. I appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit before my voice goes all the way out. Ways to thwart a stalker. I know this is Stop Stalking, and this is very incomplete, but there's just some things that I've had to talk to myself about. Don't be nice. Don't be nice. Many times when people are harassing you and they start off with phone calls or emails or Facebook messages or coming around you all the time, often, especially as women in the South, especially as Black Christian women of the South, which I am, we are so taught to always be gracious that many times when we're feeling in danger, we are afraid to yell or to say anything about it because we're taught to be nice. Don't be nice. Stay away from me. Don't call me. If you call me again, I'm calling the police. Yeah, just like that. And I'm becoming more and more sensitive when people insist on having control over your time, to talk to you, to get in your face, to show up where you are. Don't be nice. Amen. Amen. I also wanted to say, my voice is really leaving. Cut off all contact. Cut off all contact. That's blocking. That's eliminating someone as a friend from your Facebook or from your social media. You may need to stop going and patronizing stores that you know this person often is or works. I mean, you got to cut off all contact because contact feeds them. Tell people in your life and around you. I did not make a public announcement that I was being stalked, but you have to know my neighbors know, my coworkers know, the people like my parents and my best friends, they know. It's important so that you can have that support, but also it's practical. That if someone's running around saying, where does Hope Dimps leave? You're not, those people are like, we're not, wait a minute, there's a problem. We're not going to give that information. And I would just encourage everyone, shut up. Don't tell people where people live. And this is particularly for my small town folks. I feel more uncomfortable and unsafe in Perry often than I would in Atlanta because people here are so easy to give phone numbers, addresses, point people to where you are, where you work, where you live, versus in the big city. And that's a shame. But I know it comes from a sense of community. But, feel free to say, give me your information. And I could call them and see if they want to give it to you. And what's wrong with that? Keep a diary. Collect evidence. So keep a diary as to what's happening. Collect evidence is a catch-22. If you're being stopped, it is unfair for you to have to look at any pictures or listen to any messages. But as an attorney, I can tell you many times my client comes to me and say they've been called 60 times, but they've erased the call log. They've erased the voicemails. If your phone has a capacity, go ahead and record your voicemails in your voice recorder, and that says the date and time, and keep them, because that is collecting evidence. Those posts on Facebook, something nasty they send you that's embarrassing, keep it, screenshot it. You can use that in your future. And also, it helps tell the police, this is the evidence that this person is harassing me. Seek allies. Now, different from telling people in your life, the truth of it is, everyone that you may share it with or the people you're around, they may not take an active role in being an advocate for you or to suggest anything. Sometimes, disappointingly, they may just say, well, it's not bothering me, so I ain't got much to do with it, which happened to me. I would say seek allies. That comes in the form of anyone who's responsive, like the lawyer friend, or lawyer who's now a friend, who's like, hey, do you need a gun? Or that safety plan that was given to me for 2 hours by a victim advocate from a Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Those are allies. Those are people who are going to jump in with you. Or also, Mr. Lloyd, or well, I had an advocate of a person who used to go to my church, who's a very busy businessman. He's an ally. He didn't just look from the sidelines. Time he heard what had happened, he was calling me. I think in that one day, he called me probably 12 times to check on me, to make sure I got into a concealed weapons class, to ask me where was I staying over. And he actively took that threat seriously. And I will forever be appreciative for those 3 people. Those were allies that I didn't even know I needed, but now that I've experienced them, I would say seek allies, someone who will get in there with you. Create a safety plan, protect yourself. That could sound like 2 different things. In creating a safety plan, almost every domestic violence center is in every area or county or maybe region. You should look up domestic violence certified centers. They can help you create safety plans. And safety plans are basically strategies for how to stay safe. Like you heard me say in my interview, I have a defensive weapon, or offensive weapon, I guess, if I use it first, in every room of my house. There's certain things that I have done to make sure if something were to go down, someone's going to find out quickly. I carry mace or a gun with me at all times. Protect yourself. Do whatever you got to do to protect yourself. I will say this. There have been times I was helping someone with a restraining order, and I was like, you know what? Forget this restraining order. You need to go ahead to Texas. While he is still not knowing where you are, go to Texas, reestablish your life there. And if he's going to try to get at you, he's going to go through multiple states and a lawyer, which is least likely not to happen. So you have to protect yourself. And sometimes that is just based on the facts of your situation. Because this last one, seek legal intervention, that is very important. But I would say contact the police, but don't give up if they don't respond to you. Consider getting a restraining order, but make sure that you are prepared, because that restraining order or injunction, once it's served, often it can get crazier. So you need a safety plan, these allies and support if you ever decide to move the way of legal intervention, because depending on the person, the stalker may become more agitated and you need to be prepared. Also, there's situations where you can get a court hearing and not a restraining order. So you need to know what your chances are. So I would say get with an attorney if you can, or that domestic violence certified center like refuge houses in Taylor County. They can help you. I actually have one more. Be your own advocate. And this is so important. Can you believe, as an attorney, I at times am the worst advocate for myself? I think about, oh my gosh, I don't want to put a burden on already overburdened system, but I'm important too. My life is important too. And I had to give myself permission to be my own advocate. If I'm like, oh my gosh, well, this person, they're a pastor and they don't seem like they care, and he's a law enforcement officer and he knows me and he doesn't seem to care, and this is a family member and they don't seem to care. Who cares? You care. Be your own advocate, and you need to talk to yourself, because the truth of it is, tomorrow if someone's to come up and take you out of here because they found a way to get to you and no one knew what was going on, no one knew that somebody was after you, everybody's like, oh, there was no paper trail, there was no request, then it's very hard for there to be accountability. But one of the things that I am always looking at, especially locally, if there's something that goes down with domestic violence and someone ends up dead, like happened in Perry, Florida last year, where a wife was killed while she was driving with a friend as she tried to leave a bank because her ex-husband saw her and he shot through the SUV, killing both of them. To find out later that she was erroneously told that she had to return back to this county to get a restraining order, which is not true, that she left her hiding place to try to gather some information to get a restraining order. So why do I mention that? I'm always looking at processes, and being your own advocate, writing that diary, creating that safety plan, you can also help keep other parties accountable. And it may not be for even you, it may be for that next person who doesn't have as much support as you do. Oh my goodness. Hope you need a training program. You know what? I definitely feel like people can be blessed and by it, because this is a kind of situation that nobody wants to talk about until they have to talk about it. A good article for y'all to look at is Do's and Don'ts for Thwarting a Stalker by Jane Brody. It's in the New York Times. It gives really simple ideas of how to protect yourself. And here is also a number for for NOVA, the National Organization for Victim Assistance. They have great information about stalking. And I'll run the ticker for my local domestic violence certified sender refuge house in Taylor County. Our number is below with our toll-free number. If you are being stalked, if you have been a victim of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual violence, contact us. That hotline is 24 hours. We have shelter opportunities for you to stay, as well as you can get legal advice as to what your particular rights may be regarding a divorce, custody, a restraining order. Those kind of things is definitely helpful when you're in the middle of a great stress like stalking would be. Well, I have enjoyed my time talking. I hope you can hear me because my voice is so hoarse. Just so everyone knows, I am okay. I am in a good place. I wanted, and I'm like, Holy Spirit, should I do this? But I think I am. Holy Spirit, should I do this? I'm going to show you the Facebook page of the person who's been stalking me. I've not been able to locate this person, but in the fall, they did go back on their Facebook page, and there's evidence that they are probably in Atlanta. They could be in a shelter. He also is from Mississippi. And so I'm going to do something that may be out of the ordinary, and I can imagine 100 reasons why it may not be good, but I'm going to do this as a declaration that I'm not afraid. So let me get back here. Let's see. Okay, this is his Facebook page. His name is Antonio Powell, but it's misspelled there as Ant Neo Powell. I wanted to show you a picture of him. He attended Destiny Metropolitan Worship Church in Atlanta, and then Divine Order Church that was in Marietta, Georgia. This is a bad picture, but it's a picture of him. And like I said, I was just going to be fearless today and show it. Apparently, he may have gotten a new dog. I'm not sure. But it is from this account that he has sent numerous messages threatening to hit me, kill me, bury me in the backyard. He also makes other ridiculous yeah, here's his vaccination card. So if anybody want to, his birthday is 7/23 2000, 1982, I believe. He has threatened me more than once. This is the third year, or this is the third situation, and I'm tired, and I'm tired of feeling like there's nothing I can do. And I was like, you know what, I can do. I can put him on blast. And this is no offense to his lovely children and his ex-wife who he has put through hell, but he is a menace, and this picture is the only picture I could find of him. And so I wanted to put it out there. I know it's very hard to see, but Antonio, you're not in control. And the police, I'm hoping, are looking for you, which at times can be a um a serious thing when it comes to trying to believe what the police are doing or not doing. But the truth of it is, I know this is not a priority. But if you threaten anybody else, if you continue to harass other women, you will be found. I hope you get help. I hope that the God that you and I both used to say we worship to at the same church, that God would convict you and that you would get help, because you need help. You are sick. You are sick, which causes this to be not a threat as much as a cautionary warning to you that if you don't get help for your sickness, it's not going to end well for you. It's not going to end well for you. So that's that's my message. You like to look at my Hope More show. If you watch it, just know that I'm asking anyone who may know Antonio Powell, know where he lives, know how to get to him, please contact me. You can inbox me at Hope Demps. Facebook page, you can inbox Hope More, because one of the things that I'm going to do more of is being my own advocate. So I think that's all I had planned to share. And I'm so hoarse. I don't know even if you can hear me. If you have, I want to go back through the comments to see if there's anybody. Thank you, Jennifer. Amen. Thank you, Tamala. Prayers. People do need to be supported. Yes, be your own advocate. Be your own advocate. I agree. Yes, don't be nice. Thank you, Shantrika. Thank you. Thank you. I am walking in freedom in Jesus' name. Um, but oh my gosh. Yeah. All of this of what y'all have said, all of this. Thank you so much for being on here and sharing this show. Hopefully it'll bless someone to at least know that they're not by themselves. Oh, I love you too, Zared. And there's so much more I could say, but I definitely wanted this to be more informative than salacious, because the story has so many other depths to it, but that may just have to go into my autobiography. But thank you so very much. You all remember, stop domestic violence. We're praying that dating violence, sexual violence will stop, and that stalking will come to an end for all the victims out there who are undergoing things that really make you jump. This scarier than a haunted house. Think about them this week as we end the month of October. I look forward to seeing you in November. This is Hope Demps, and I'm your host as well as guest today. I love you, and nothing you can do about it. Bye-bye.